What really happens when we take our last breath? This is one of humanity's oldest questions, and perhaps the most intriguing of all. Does consciousness simply fade, like a candle flame in the wind? Or is there something beyond what meets the eye? Have you ever wondered what it's like to cross this invisible boundary that separates life from what we call death? What I'm about to share here is not mere speculation, nor is it the fruit of imagination. These are revelations attributed to Emmanuel, a deeply respected spirit guide who was at the side of Chico Xavier, one of the greatest mediums in Brazil and the world. The messages he left invite us to reflect on the first 7 days after the departure of the physical body, a period that, according to his descriptions, holds surprising secrets and revelations capable of transforming the way we view existence. Imagine, for a moment, that you are lying down, your tired body saying goodbye to earthly life, and suddenly a new reality begins to unfold before you. It's not a dream, it's not an illusion, it's an awakening. Emmanuel describes this moment as a process, full of mystery, in which the soul begins to realize that it remains alive, conscious, and present, even after leaving matter behind. Stay with me until the end, because what you discover now may surprise you. Many have heard of near-death experiences. People claiming to have seen an intense light, relived memories, or even encountered deceased loved ones. But Emmanuel goes beyond these impressions. It reveals that the first days after death are marked by a mixture of confusion, recognition, and learning. It's as if the spirit needs time to find its bearings, to understand that it is no longer trapped in the physical body, but that at the same time, it continues to carry with it the emotions, thoughts, experiences accumulated throughout life. Have you ever felt like you're in a strange place, trying to understand where you are and how you got there? This sensation, according to Emmanuel, is similar to what happens to many spirits shortly after death. Some feel fear, some feel relief, and others simply don't realize they've left the material plane. That's why this initial period is so important. It defines the soul's first contact with the new reality, and here comes a detail that Emmanuel warns us very clearly: no one goes through this process alone. He explains that often spiritual friends, family members who have already passed away, or even mentors prepared to welcome the new soul approach at this moment. What seemed like mere darkness or emptiness suddenly transforms into a reunion, an opportunity for reconnection and acceptance. This loving presence helps the spirit understand the new stage that is beginning and leave behind the fear of what we call the end. But why talk about this today, in the 21st century? Because this message is not only a comfort to those who have lost a loved one, but also a call to all of us who are still alive. Emmanuel invites us to see life as a continuous preparation, where every thought, every gesture, and every choice impacts not only the present, but also what we will encounter later. This revelation of the 7 days after death is like a window that opens, allowing us to glimpse, albeit in a limited way, what awaits us on the other side. What you're about to hear next may change the way you view your own existence. All, if life continues after death, if consciousness awakens in another dimension, then every moment we live here takes on new meaning. And that's precisely what we're going to delve into now, exploring in detail how Emmanuel described the first moments of this mysterious passage, and what happens to the soul in the 7 days following the departure of the physical body. Have you ever wondered what the exact moment of death is like? Not what we hear in stories or see in movies, but what really happens the moment that your body takes its last breath and the soul begins to detach itself from matter. Emmanuel, the spirit guide who accompanied Chico Xavier in countless messages, revealed to us that consciousness doesn't fade away, as many believe. On the contrary, it awakens to a new reality that can be as surprising as it is frightening. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because the first contact with the spiritual world is very different from what we imagine. According to Emmanuel, this moment is marked by a kind of transition in perception. For some, the body's detachment is gentle, almost imperceptible, like waking from a deep sleep. For others, it can be a confusing process in which the person still believes they are physically alive, trying to understand why they are no longer heard, why their gestures are unresponsive. Have you ever dreamed so intensely that upon waking, it took a few seconds to understand whether you were truly awake or still dreaming? The soul's experience of detaching from matter is similar, but much more intense. Imagine lying in bed, surrounded by loved ones saying goodbye, and suddenly feeling your breathing lighten, the weight of your body disappear, and a strange sense of freedom invade every part of you. Emmanuel describes this moment as an awakening, in which many spirits perceive an indescribable lightness, almost like floating, while others face the difficulty of accepting that they no longer belong to the physical world. It is in this moment that the state of consciousness, the values cultivated in life, and even the serenity with which one faces death make all the difference. The most touching thing, according to Emmanuel, is that no one is alone in this passage. He reveals that spiritual friends, mentors, and even family members who have passed away often approach to welcome the new arrival. Many describe this reunion as a silent embrace, an exchange of glances that conveys security and love, even without words. Think for a moment. What would it be like to reunite with someone you love deeply and who passed before you? The mere possibility warms your heart, doesn't it? Stay with me until the end, because what Emmanuel shows us is that this spiritual welcome is real, and it often happens in the first moments of a new life. However, not all spirits have this clear perception right away. Emmanuel explains that there are those who remain attached to matter, trying to cling to their now dead body or to the objects they possessed in life. For these souls, the first moments can be confusing, like being trapped between two worlds without fully understanding what is happening. Confusion, attachment, and even denial are part of this awakening, which is why the presence of spiritual guides is so important. They help calm guide the newly detached consciousness to a new stage. Emmanuel's account makes us reflect on how each person experiences death uniquely. While some feel relief, others resist. While some awaken to a new dimension of light, others need time to accept that they have left material life behind. But in all cases, there is a process of awakening consciousness, a call to look beyond what human eyes can see. And perhaps this is one of the most powerful messages: the certainty that life goes on, that passing is not an end, but a beginning. And when we think about this, we realize that these first moments after death reveal much more than we imagine. They're merely the gateway to an even deeper path, and it is precisely this journey, experienced over the next 7 days, that we will now delve into. Have you ever wondered what happens in the 7 days after death? Not talking about symbolic stories or vague beliefs, but about spiritual accounts revealed by Emmanuel, spirit guide who was with Chico Xavier, and left profound descriptions of the experience of disembodiment. These first 7 days are described as a decisive period, a true rite of passage between earthly life and spiritual life, in which the soul begins to understand its new reality. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear now may change the way you view life, death, and even the choices you make daily, according to Emmanuel. Immediately after the physical body is separated, the spirit is not simply cast off to an unknown destination. There is a gradual process, which can last for days, in which the soul revisits memories, rediscovers significant places, and observes those still incarnate. It is as if, during this interval, a final look back is permitted, a silent farewell to the material world. Many spirits, according to him, find themselves close to family members, attending their own funeral ceremonies, listening to prayers, and feeling the emotions of those mourning their departure. Have you ever felt the presence of a loved one who has passed away? It's this sensation which many people report, which may be directly linked to this period in which the spirit still circulates among us. But these 7 days are not just a farewell. Emmanuel explains that they are moments of purification and adaptation, in which the consciousness gradually detaches itself from the weight of the physical body and the emotional ties that kept the spirit tied to matter. It is during this time that many inner truths begin to surface. Memories of the life that has just ended present themselves with intensity, as if they were scenes from a film playing before the spiritual eyes. Every gesture, every word, and every choice gains a new dimension, revealing to the soul the fruits of its own actions. What you will discover now may surprise you. There is no external judgment in this process, but a kind of natural self-evaluation, in which the spirit clearly sees the effects of what it planted during its time on earth. And while this inner journey can be painful for some, it can also be profoundly liberating for others. Emmanuel describes how many spirits feel immense relief upon realizing they no longer carry physical limitations, bodily pain or material anxieties. Others, however, struggle to let go of attachments to possessions, people, or even their own guilt. This is where the essential presence of spiritual mentors comes in. During these 7 days, they closely accompany, welcome, guide, and transmit serenity to the newly disembodied spirit. It's as if they're silently saying, "You are not alone. We are here to guide you." This welcome is one of the most moving parts of Emmanuel's revelations. He speaks of encounters with deceased family members, of embraces filled with longing, of reunions that restore peace and hope to the soul that arrives. Imagine, for a moment, being able to see someone you lost years ago again, feeling again, that presence that seemed distant but which now comes alive before you. Stay with me until the end, because this detail is one of the greatest sources of comfort and understanding about the continuity of life. The 7 days after death, courting, to Emmanuel, function like a bridge. On one side, there is the life left behind, with all its stories, affections, and lessons. On the other, the horizon of a new existence opens up, in which the soul begins to adjust to spiritual laws and understand the next step of its journey. It is at this threshold that profound reflections arise. What are we truly building while we are alive? What bonds are strong enough to endure death and remain with us? These questions aren't just philosophical. They're invitations to look at our own lives more closely. After all, if Emmanuel shows us that death isn't an end, but a conscious passage, then each day lived here is also a preparation for that inevitable moment. And understanding what happens in the first 7 days after death can be the key to seeing the value of what we do now, while we still have the chance to choose, love, and transform. And it is precisely about this transitional path, about how the soul gradually frees itself from matter and is led to the spiritual plane that we will delve deeper into from now on. Have you ever stopped to consider how the way we live today can directly influence what we encounter after death? This question may seem uncomfortable at first glance, but it is precisely this that holds one of the greatest teachings brought by Emmanuel, the spirit guide who accompanied Chico Xavier and left messages that continue to resonate to this day. What you'll discover now may surprise you, because these revelations were not simply intended to satisfy our curiosity about the afterlife, but to awaken us here and now to the importance of every action, every word, and every choice we make. While on earth, according to Emmanuel, life doesn't end with the last breath, it transforms. The spirit awakens in a new reality. It takes with it everything it built in life, affections, memories, lessons learned, and even mistakes that still need to be repaired. This is why understanding what happens after death isn't just a matter of mysticism or faith, but a profound call to look more closely at our own journey. Have you ever felt that some situations in your life hold greater lessons than they seem? This realization is no coincidence. It's part of this great process of evolution that Emmanuel describes. His message is clear. The continuity of spiritual life is inseparable from what we do now, in this very moment. Every act of kindness, every loving thought, every action that generates light becomes part of us and accompanies us beyond death. Likewise, selfishness, indifference, and a lack of compassion also leave their mark, which will need to be confronted sooner or later. What you will discover throughout this reflection is that spiritual destiny is not imposed from the outside, but constructed from within. It's deep within each person's consciousness. And it is at this point that Emmanuel invites us to see life differently. Not as an accumulation of possessions, achievements, or appearances, but as a precious opportunity for spiritual growth. He reminds us that by cultivating values such as empathy, patience, gratitude, and true love, we are paving a more serene path for our own journey. It's like planting seeds today that will bear fruit tomorrow, not only physically, but also spiritually. Stay with me until the end, because this reflection can open your eyes to aspects of your life you may never have noticed. This teaching also brings profound comfort to those who face the pain of losing a loved one. Emmanuel shows us that death does not break the bonds of love. On the contrary, sincere bonds remain alive, transcending the barrier between worlds. How many times have you felt the presence of someone who has passed away, whether in a dream, an unexpected thought, or a feeling of welcome that arises out of nowhere? This experience, often described as coincidence, can be proof that true love is never lost, because it is energy. And energy does not disappear at the same time. Emmanuel's message is a gentle yet powerful warning. If everything we do reverberates in the afterlife, then the life we lead today is the foundation of what we will live tomorrow. This awareness calls us to reflect on what truly matters. Are we dedicating enough time to our affections, our relationships, and the cultivation of inner peace? Or are we caught up in rushes, material concerns, and fleeting disputes that, in the face of eternity, mean little? These questions are not meant to create fear, but to awaken. Emmanuel speaks not of punishments, but of spiritual responsibility. Life goes on, and what we build with love becomes our greatest asset. This is the true meaning of the revelation about the 7 days after death, more than a fascinating account of the afterlife. It is an invitation to live better here, today, in the present. And it's precisely at this point that the message gains even more power, because it leads us to see that every choice carries weight, and every act of love has eternal value. And it's this connection between our daily actions, our spiritual future, that we'll delve deeper into next. And when we think about all this, it's impossible not to feel an inner calling to look more lovingly at the life we're building now. Because deep down, every story, every experience, and every feeling we cultivate is part of this great spiritual fabric that accompanies us beyond death. And it's at this point that I want to open up space for you to join this conversation. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far, or even an experience you've had that gave you the feeling that there's something beyond what meets the eye. It could be a dream, a memory, or a feeling that marked your life. Know that your story can help others. We're also seeking answers and comfort. And if you feel like this content is bringing up important reflections, please like it right now. It seems like a simple gesture, but it shows the platform that this topic is valuable and deserves to reach more people who also need to hear Emmanuel's message. Furthermore, when you like, comment, and interact, you'll help create a community where every voice counts, where every shared experience further strengthens this chain of light and knowledge. And of course, if you want to continue immersing yourself in content like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you'll ensure you don't miss future revelations and reflections on spirituality, life after death, and messages from beyond. Your presence here is what keeps this space alive, because each subscription is like a sign that this message is fulfilling its purpose to reach hearts that yearn to understand more about life and what lies beyond. Stay with me until the end, because there is still much to be revealed about this connection between our choices on earth and what awaits us in the spiritual dimension. And what comes next may open even more horizons within you. What happens the moment the heart stops beating? This question has haunted humanity since time immemorial, spanning cultures, religions, and philosophies. Some believe that death is merely an end, a void with no return, while others maintain the certainty that it is precisely at this moment that everything truly begins. Emmanuel, a spirit who worked side by side with Chico Xavier, brought a revelation that stands out for its depth and clarity. The first 7 days after death are not just an invisible journey, but a period full of experiences, encounters, and hidden truths that forever transform the way we understand life. The impact of this message lies not only in the mystery it carries, but also in the responsibility it bestows upon us. Because according to Emmanuel, every choice we make here reverberates beyond time and space. When we stop to reflect on this, we realize that the last breath is not a full stop, but a comma in a long journey that continues in another dimension. And it's fascinating to note how Emmanuel describes these moments so naturally, as if narrating the behind-the-scenes story of a reality few know. He doesn't speak in vague metaphors, but in concrete experiences. Consciousness awakens the spirit, recognizes itself as alive, and then begins to see everything around it with new eyes. It's as if a veil has been lifted, revealing a truth that has always been there, but only now is being revealed. This awakening doesn't happen the same way for everyone. Emmanuel explains that much depends on the mindset cultivated in life, the feelings we carry, and the decisions we make daily. Those who have lived serenely, cultivating love and compassion, tend to feel a smoother transition, almost like waking from a peaceful sleep. Those who have lived trapped in resentment, fear, and tense attachments may face a certain confusion, as if they were still attached to matter. This difference shows how our inner state is crucial in this process and invites us to consider the real impact of each attitude. Each emotion we harbor, imagine for a moment the scenario described by Emmanuel. The body lies inert, but the consciousness remains awake. All around, family members mourn, friends say goodbye, and the spirit, still nearby, observes everything clearly, perceiving emotions, gestures, and words. Some try to speak, touch, and interact, without understanding that they no longer belong to the same plane. There are also those who feel such profound peace that they simply accept it, allowing themselves to be guided by the welcoming presence of spiritual mentors. This duality between confusion and serenity reveals that death is not the same for everyone, but a direct reflection of what we were in life. The most striking detail is that, in these accounts brought by Emmanuel, the spirit is not abandoned to its own fate. He emphasizes the importance of the presence of spiritual guides, invisible friends who welcome and guide. These beings approach with gentleness, transmitting calm and helping the newly departed understand what is happening. Emmanuel shows us that this moment is not solitary, but surrounded by care, as if the entire universe were prepared to welcome the awakening soul. And this image is powerful because it dissolves the fear of loneliness that so many carry in relation to death. This revelation should not be seen merely as a distant tale or spiritual curiosity. It functions as a mirror held before us. If how we cross the threshold of death depends on what we cultivated in life, then every decision made now carries greater weight than we imagine. We are not just talking about beliefs, but about real transformation, about choices that shape our journey, not only here, but also beyond matter.
I think this is the hidden truth that Emmanuel delivers to us.
There is no separation between what we experience today and what we will experience after death. Everything is part of the same flow. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because Emmanuel describes these first moments as merely the beginning of a much broader process. The spirit, upon realizing itself outside the body, begins to revisit memories, understand bonds, and evaluate what it has built throughout its existence. It's like watching a personal film, but without filters or justifications. Each gesture of love gains strength. Each selfish choice becomes clear. This revision is not imposed by anyone, but springs from the consciousness itself, which faces its own truth. And it is precisely this clarity that paves the way for the 7 decisive days that mark the beginning of spiritual life. By understanding this, we begin to realize that talking about death is, in fact, talking about life. It's talking about how we conduct our relationships, how we deal with our pain, and how we cultivate our dreams. Emmanuel invites us to see existence as an opportunity for continuous learning, where nothing is lost and everything is transformed. And this vision is liberating, because it shows us that even the most difficult moments carry a greater meaning, which will often only be understood when we cross this invisible bridge. Every detail of this revelation invites reflection. Are we living in a way that is consistent with what we hope to reap in the future? Are we strengthening the bonds that truly matter, or wasting time on fleeting disputes? Emmanuel doesn't offer us ready-made answers, but rather encourages us to search within ourselves for the seeds of what we will find on the other side. This is the beauty and also the responsibility of his message. It points not outward, but inward, where the most important decisions of our journey are made. And given all this, I want to extend a special invitation to you. Comment, "This makes sense to me." This simple phrase will show that this message resonated with you, and at the same time, will strengthen this community of people who, like you, are open to reflecting on life, death, and the mysteries that surround us. Because, deep down, this isn't just a story about what happens next, but about how we're living right now, in the very present. Imagine the exact moment your heart beats its final beat. For many, this would be the end of everything, an inevitable final point. But according to Emmanuel, it is precisely at this moment that history takes on a new dimension. Consciousness does not extinguish like a candle flame blown out in the wind. Rather, it awakens to an unknown landscape, a landscape that slowly reveals itself to those who have just crossed the threshold between life and death. Emmanuel describes this awakening as a state of lucidity that varies from spirit to spirit. Some open their spiritual eyes with clarity, immediately realizing they are in another sphere of existence, while others experience a confusion similar to awakening from an intense dream. It is as if the mind tries to grasp in seconds a hidden truth that has always been there, but which can only now be directly accessed. Some people feel an indescribable lightness, as if their physical body, which had so often been a burden, had been left behind. Others, however, still carry the feeling of being trapped in the material world, influenced by memories, attachments, and decisions that marked their earthly journey. Emmanuel emphasizes that there is no single rule, because the experience of awakening is profoundly shaped by the mindset we cultivate throughout life. It is at this point that inner transformation, something we often neglect, becomes decisive. After all, every thought, every choice, every gesture of love or indifference builds. What we will encounter in this first moment, it also reveals something that touches the heart deeply, the presence of spiritual friends or family, members who have already passed away. Many spirits report seeing familiar faces soon after their passing, loved ones who extend their hands to guide them on this new journey. And suddenly, a familiar voice calls out their name. A spiritual embrace envelops their energy, and a certainty dawns. They are not alone. This detail is not only a comfort but also a powerful sign that emotional bonds are not broken by death. They remain as living bridges. It's like lighthouses in the middle of the crossing. But Emmanuel also speaks of another equally real possibility. A solitary awakening. An attachment to the material world is so intense that the mind cannot accept separation. The spirit may feel lost, trapped in memories, environments, or even objects it loved in life. In this invisible framework, there is a silent struggle between resistance and liberation. It is as if the soul were faced with an invitation to move forward, but preferred to cling to what no longer exists.
Ow.
This conflict clearly reveals the impact of our most intimate choices. Everything we accumulate within ourselves, love, resentment, fear, faith manifests itself in this first contact with the beyond, the awakening of consciousness. Then is not a fixed script, but a reflection of the life we have lived. Emmanuel makes it clear that there is no punishment nor arbitrary reward, but rather the natural harvest of what we cultivate. This revelation leads us to reflect on the value of small actions, those we often consider unimportant, a kind word, a gesture of empathy, a decision based on spiritual values can make all the difference when the time comes to cross over. And the most intriguing thing is to realize that, although each experience is unique, they all share one thing in common: the certainty that life goes on, in a dimension where the hidden truth reveals itself inescapably. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because Emmanuel describes how the newly liberated consciousness not only awakens, but also begins to perceive subtle signs of this new reality. Sensations that were previously impossible to comprehend become evident. The spirit notices the absence of physical limitations, discovers it can move with the speed of thought, and realizes that places are not made solely of matter, but also of energy and vibration. It's as if we've stepped behind the scenes of life, finally seeing what has always been beyond the veil of ordinary perception. This process, however, is not neutral. It can generate joy, liberation, and a transformative impact for those who have lived in tune with higher values, but it can also cause estrangement and even anguish for those who have resisted any idea of continued existence. Some spirits report hearing soft music, smelling pleasant aromas, or being enveloped by a serene light, while others perceive only emptiness, a heavy silence that echoes their own inner concerns. This difference reinforces that the awakening of consciousness is a mirror of the individual's journey, directly revealing what was previously hidden in the deep layers of the mind. Emmanuel invites us to see this truth not as a threat, but as an opportunity for transformation. He reminds us that living consciously, cultivating good feelings and an open mind, is preparing to navigate this moment with serenity. When we imagine the scenario, we're not just talking about death, but about life in its essence. Understanding the first moments after death is also an invitation to reflect on how we're living now. If consciousness awakens, charged with love and lightness, that will be the tone of the experience. If it awakens shrouded in fear and attachment, that will be the immediate harvest. It's a call to face our own decisions head-on, without shying away from the natural consequences they bring, and perhaps it is precisely this revelation that touches us most. We are not faced with an inaccessible mystery, but with a simple yet profound truth. Life goes on, consciousness awakens, and each of us is constructing behind the scenes of the present. The experience we will have when we cross the threshold of death. Right there, I'm on this journey too. Imagine with me. If the first moments of death are already marked by an unexpected awakening of consciousness, the following 7 days are even more intense, as if they were a deep dive into everything one has experienced and left behind. Emmanuel describes this period as a decisive moment, in which the spirit finds itself before a kind of invisible mirror, revisiting not only loved places and people, but also every choice, every emotion, every detail that shaped its passage on earth. It is as if life in its purest essence unfolds before the soul's gaze without masks, without disguises, without justifications. What was routine takes on a new dimension. What seems small takes on unexpected weight. And what once seemed so grand often loses its importance in the face of the hidden truth that is revealed in this process. This 7-day cycle acts as a bridge, a transitional space in which the spirit gradually detaches itself from physical sensations. While remaining connected to everything it loved and valued, some spiritual accounts describe this moment as a silent journey through its own history. The spirit may be with the family, feeling their grief and tears, but unable to intervene. It may visit the house where it once lived, recognizing every object and memory. It may even witness situations it previously overlooked, such as conversations that reveal hidden feelings of those around it. This journey is both a farewell and a preparation. And the more the soul understands this process, the smoother the path forward becomes. This is where spiritual mentors enter the scene with a delicate and essential role. They not only welcome the spirit but also help reorganize its perceptions, as if they were guides holding the hand of someone who has just emerged from a confusing labyrinth. Emmanuel explains that this welcome isn't the same for everyone, because each spirit carries with them the baggage of their own choices, the mindset cultivated in life, and the way they dealt with the sacred or the unknown. For some, this process of adaptation is quick and smooth, a true liberation. For others, it can be marked by resistance, confusion, or even fear of letting go of what they once knew. Consider how this also reflects our own journey here and now. How often do we cling to things, situations, or relationships that no longer make sense, but that we insist on maintaining out of fear of the new? This spiritual transition seems to echo a truth we also experience in life, that all change requires detachment, transformation, and the courage to traverse the unknown. The 7 days described by Emmanuel invite us to reflect on how we live, our daily choices, because they are precisely what shape how we will face this journey. Some spirits find themselves enveloped in a sense of purification, as if each memory were a flame illuminating and dissolving accumulated burdens. Others feel suspended, observing without fully understanding, until the loving presence of their mentors awakens them to the new reality. Still others refuse to accept their own departure, remaining close to the places they loved most, trying to keep alive a connection that can no longer exist in the same form. It is at this point that spiritual support becomes essential, for it is not just about guiding, but about teaching, reminding the soul that life is not lost, only changed form. This process can be compared to a kind of behind-the-scenes look at existence, where one finally understands that every decision made in life has left its mark, not only on one's own spirit, but also on the people and situations around us. It's as if consciousness receives an inevitable invitation to review the impacts it caused, the seeds it planted, and the fruits it reaped. And it is precisely there that reflection arises. What kind of seeds are we planting now? What bonds are we strengthening? What truths are we hiding? What choices are we postponing? Because ultimately, these 7 days are not just a farewell, but also a beginning, an awakening to something much greater. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because Emmanuel reveals that this initial 7-day cycle is not just a rite of passage, but a true preparation for the next stage of the spiritual journey. It's like a silent training session in which the soul learns to cope with the absence of the physical body, to understand the value of memories, and to open itself to the new reality that is approaching. There is something profoundly human about this process, the need to embrace one's own story, so that only then one can move forward. Reflecting on this, it becomes clear that this period also teaches us, even while we are still alive. It shows us that there is no farewell without learning, that there is no transformation without looking back, that there is no future without accepting what we once were. And perhaps this is the greatest gift of spiritual revelations, offering us the chance to understand while still alive, that we are always experiencing small deaths and rebirths, and that each cycle prepares us for the next. And that's why I want you to join me in this moment of reflection. If everything I've shared so far resonated with you in any way, comment below. I'm on this journey too. I want to feel this exchange happening, because every word you say here is part of this same journey we're exploring together. Now we move on, because what comes after these 7 days holds even deeper and more transformative revelations, ... Hearing Emmanuel's words about the 7 decisive days. It's impossible not to reflect on our own lives and how every gesture, every choice, and every bond we build carries a weight that goes beyond what meets the eye. He doesn't just describe a distant spiritual process, but a hidden truth that speaks directly to our existence here and now. When he speaks of the spirit revisiting memories, observing the places it loved, the people with whom it shared the journey, this is also a call to look more closely at the behind-the-scenes aspects of our own journey. After all, if it's in this moment of transition that we clearly perceive what truly mattered, why not cultivate, even in life, the values that truly sustain who we are? This message isn't just about mystery or religion, it's about mindset transformation and the decisions that shape the impact of our presence in the world. Emmanuel invites us to consider that if life continues, then every action we take now is like a seed we plant to reap tomorrow. The way we treat people, the depth of our relationships, the courage to forgive and let go of old pain are choices that define the quality of our journey. And when we understand this, we no longer see death as an end, but as a passage, as part of an ever-expanding journey. Imagine the comfort this brings to someone who has lost a loved one, knowing that there has been no erasure, that consciousness awakens in a new reality, and that surrounded by spiritual friends. The journey continues in another dimension, completely transforms the way we experience longing. It's as if Emmanuel opens a window to see that nothing we experience is lost, and that true love never fades. This revelation, for many, would be enough to soothe the heart, but he goes further, reminding us that we, still here, have the power to shape this reunion. It's not about living in fear or obligation, but about cultivating values that resonate with eternity. Compassion, empathy, generosity, truth. Because if everything is revealed on the other side, what we carry with us are precisely the feelings, intentions, and learning we've built. This is the most transformative part of the teaching. It's as if he were saying, live in such a way that you'll be proud of what you'll find when the veils fall. This isn't just spirituality, it's clarity. It's It's a practical guide for those who wish to live a more meaningful life, and it's curious to understand how this understanding changes us internally. When we accept that life doesn't end with our last breath, we create a new relationship with time, with loss, with challenges. We begin to see each difficulty not as a punishment, but as part of a preparation, as if they were chapters in a larger book still being written. This gives us resilience, hope, and a peace that doesn't depend on external certainties, but on an inner conviction. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because Emmanuel shows us that this message is also a reflection of the present. He speaks of purification, acceptance, and continuity, but ultimately, what he's saying is that we have a responsibility for how we approach this transition. It's not a demand, but an opportunity. Every gesture of love, every conscious choice, is like a silent preparation for this awakening. But there is the possibility of being in motion, of seeking daily evolution. And when we think about evolution, we understand that it's not something distant or abstract. It's in the small, everyday actions, in the way we interact with those around us, in caring for our own minds and hearts. It's about the decision not to carry heavy grudges, not to live by appearances alone, but to seek the essence. Because when everything is revealed, it won't be the masks that remain, but the truth we cultivate. This perspective changes the way we view human relationships. How often do we miss the chance to say a kind word, to offer forgiveness, to truly be present with someone we love? If we know that life goes on and that bonds are what last most, then it makes no sense to postpone simple gestures that can transform not only our own journey, but also that of those who walk alongside us. And that's why this revelation isn't just curiosity or spiritual theory. It's an urgent and sincere invitation to live more consciously now. It's as if Emmanuel were saying, don't wait for the moment of passage to discover the value of your choices. Discover it now while you still have time, because this is where change happens. This message touches not only those who fear death, but also those who live trapped by the weight of life, because it shows that nothing is in vain, that every experience, even pain, has a place in our growth. And perhaps this is the greatest consolation, understanding that loss is not final, that love never ends, that there is continuity and reunion. It's a vision that gives meaning to longing and transforms the way we deal with absence. Emmanuel offers us not only answers, but hope. He shows us that we are not alone, neither now nor later, and that life is a great journey where each chapter prepares the next. If this topic resonated with you in any way, leave a comment that sums up how you're feeling right now. It could be something simple like, that resonates with me. Now the reflection continues, because there is still much to reveal about this continuity and about what it really means to awaken to this hidden truth. And if you've made it this far, it's because this message truly resonated with you in some way, and that already creates a special connection between us. If you felt this content brought valuable reflections or opened new perspectives on life, death, and the paths of the soul, please leave a like now. Each like is a sign that this exchange of experiences and thoughts is making sense, and it helps keep this space alive, where we can explore these profound truths together. I also want to invite you to comment below with a phrase that shows you we're with me until the end. Something simple like, I'm with you until the end, or this message was for me. I love seeing how each person interprets and feels this journey, and it's precisely this interaction that strengthens our community, making each reflection even more meaningful. And if you want to continue diving into this universe of revelations, there's a video here that complements this topic. Click and follow along. There, we'll explore even more details, stories, and lessons that can transform the way you understand life, choices, and what awaits us beyond what we see. It's an opportunity to continue expanding this journey together with lightness, curiosity, and openness to what's yet to come.